What we've seen is that in a networked economy, both the agents and the economy behave in a different way. So I call that economics 2.0. We need a different kind of economic theory to understand this new kind of economy. And in fact, we'll see now what we can learn from Greece. I'd like to invite Anthony Gortzis to come forward to the stage. Because Greece, of course, is in a crisis, but it might just be one of the first victims of this transformation of our economy, and hopefully it will be one of the first countries to recover and reinvent itself. So let's see what we can learn about this. Anthony was born in Athens. He studied economics and law. He also attended a crash course MBA at Harvard University. He was then a marketing department manager at Unilever, later a president of the Greek Institute of Marketing, and elected president of the World Federation of Advertisers. What is most important for me is that since 2008, he was elected as the president of the board for social responsibility for citizens. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, because I have two presentations, one after the other, one is more general and the other one is focused on Greece, I'm going to be very near to my papers, otherwise I'm going to lose my plane, which is on Sunday. So I will go through my notes, okay? First of all, it's a great pleasure to be here today and address to such really respectful audience. I would like to sincerely thank the organizers. Many thanks to Hans Groth and also to the organizing committee, and especially to Cornelia, she was very helpful and she has given me excellent hospitality. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is unfortunately Europe's inability to focus on delivering long-term sustainable growth that has direct impact upon workers and households across our continent. For many member states and the societies, the big question is whether they can exist in Europe without austerity policies and with a very low unemployment, particularly among the younger generation. The burning inquiry in all member states is whether Europe can continue to be identified as a highly democratic model system with the rule of legality, with European social state that transcends the demographic and fiscal crisis, whether Europe can retain its identification with pluralism, tolerance, competitiveness, full employment, innovation, creativity, culture, the values that are the historical and ideological and political foundation of European integration following the tragic experience of the two world wars. Sorry? Yeah. Governments need to restore trust, confidence of consumers and their markets, where investors need business ethics more than ever. Now, I'm speaking always, and I have the hats of the business ethics, but I think we have to think if the hat is the right one, or we have to put also political and business ethics. We cannot continue letting our industry relocating its physical production and services outside Europe by losing every year the best managers or even brains, naturally talents from our universities. So I think we have to think very seriously about that. Europe urgently needs to return to growth rates. I will show you, which I copy some of the key messages from European Business Summit, which happens every year in Brussels. What they say to the political leaders: less unemployment, expand EU external trades, promote private investment, innovation and more research and development. Europe is very low in innovation the last couple of years. Restructure of the very big public sector. If you go to the Belgium, to the Brussels, all the public sectors, the public sector is huge there. Safeguard the euro, improve public finance and structural reforms, and education, and more investment in education. This is absolutely necessary. The global economic ethics is path-breaking step on the way to sustainable development. Hans Kunk, one of the world's more moral leaders and scholars, has long insisted that globalization cannot succeed without global ethics. Okay? Vision and values are part of the ethical culture of every society. We used in the past, most of the European countries, to have some values like family, religion, freedom, homeland. What happened to that? Do we know? I'm not sure. Ladies and gentlemen, values management is aiming to define the ethical framework and guiding principles of a team organization and implement them in everyday practice, like performance value, communication values, corporate values, and moral values. The values do not describe an actual situation, but they define the behavioral preferences of an enterprise. Success comes from companies who believe in business ethics. They have vision, mission, values, and commitment to excellence, passions, and drive of the leadership. The current global economic crisis is costing the world trillions of euros, protracted recession, millions of lost jobs, a huge loss of confidence in financial markets, and a reversal in our effort to curb global poverty. It's the result of the combination of several failures. A failure of business ethics is one of them, one that lies at the epicenter of this financial and economic earthquake. A woman named Whitney and a man named Kotkin predicted a couple of years ago that the jobs you have today may not even exist in the near future, because everything is going to change. We listen, Philip, in the morning about the machines, the new development in computers, etc., etc. So, there is a major concern that we need to explore population, unemployment, low productivity, inflation, business ethics, resources, responsibility, and jobs get more visual. Thanks to the internet, the average entrepreneur does not need a large corporation in an office building to run a business. Many people will work from home, or they will choose their communities and cities based on where they want to live. In the coming years, the rules of the global financial and economic system will be rewritten again. And I have the feeling that what I hear today, we're going this direction. Everything is changing rapidly and very quickly. The incentives to proper behavior have to be included in those new rules, and also the world's responsibility must be more sound from the school time. So we have to focus on the word responsible. Responsibility, it's a big word for everybody. We have to learn from the first classes when we are pupils in the school. The crisis will give us, hopefully, the opportunity to build the foundation of a new business era, culture, more ethical and dynamic and responsible. There is a widespread consensus that the world will be richer, older, and with somewhat smaller difference in GDP per capita across the countries by the years 2050. I'm not going to be there, so must be something like that. Every culture and nation has its own values, history, customs, and tradition. Thus, it has developed own ethical values and understanding of ethical principles. So you understand that the total world, they don't have similar values. I mean, there are some logical things. There is no international ethical code or conduct accepted and followed by all countries. We have in Europe, but not in all the world. There is a lack of government's initiative to create ethical cooperation framework and thus to enhance ethical behavior in international business. Asia, for example, will emerge as a significant player in the world economy, both as a producer and, more importantly, as a market of new consumers. More than 1 billion new middle-class consumers will enter the marketplace over the next decade, most of them from Asia. For the first time in history, more than 50% of the world population lives in urban areas. Even in Africa, half of the population will live in cities by 2030. So you'll see how the urbanization from 2011 goes to 2030. Very high figures. The average annual growth rate of the European population was 3.8 during 2002-2011, and will be 3.6 between now, let's say, 2008 and 2035, and less than 1 in 2050. So the weakness of European population dynamics and the resulting decline in the labor force will cause significant stress on the economy, pressure on salaries, pension, and lower potential growth. Of course, if you think that a couple of years ago, most of the people at the age of 60, it was very, very rare to find people living 65 years old, and now you speak about 85 and 90 years old. See what is going to happen in this curve, for example, what happened to Europe, and what happened, for example, in Africa, where the average birth, the average household is going to have 4.5 children, while Europe, it's 1.5, and most of the other areas, 2.2. So we are not going to replace our son or daughter. We are not going to replace yourself and your wife. So the population is probably here, or could be somewhere here. So another thing which is good to speak, it's the annual growth of the European 27 countries. So before crisis, it was something like 2.6. After crisis, about 1.5, but this is something which I have last year. I don't know, this year probably less. But I'm afraid that weaknesses of European growth does not allow a sufficient rate of job creation to ensure a rapid decrease in the unemployment rate. So, while overall growth is advanced economies is positive, there are large regional differences between the states. So, I give you another table, which is what is the real GDP growth in the Eurozone, the United States, UK, Japan, China. China, I don't know if they are going to reach after the problem that they have with 7.1, but anyway, it's very high. India, for example, it's going well. And don't forget that the population of India increased rapidly in the Middle Age because it's the country completely different from China that they have girls and boys, while a lot of years in China, they had just one child. So they have now troubles here rather than here. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to state 6 main drivers of the economic growth, which is population and human capitals, capital and capital markets, technology, innovation, productivity and growth, globalization and trade, natural resources and education. I took the education and I want to stay a little bit more there. Education is the key of success. So we have to invest in our people. The results of the Erasmus Generation survey in Europe a couple of months ago included young people's opinion on the future policies, which are what they say. 63% believe their vote makes a difference. 36% feel that politics are not interesting enough to concern them. 66% have a positive view of the EU. 65% believe that European politics are not interested in the views of young people, and we see what happened. So, business ethics is a system of moral principles applied in the commercial world. It's a whole new scientific area because it combines law theory and politics as much as philosophical and historical documents. Business ethics is defined by a set of moral principles and values. Business ethics provides guidelines for acceptable behavior by organization in both their strategy formulation and day-to-day operation. Now, the objective of the European Business Ethics Network is to promote the principles of corporate ethics, of corporate governance, of social responsibility in academic communities, in the public and private sector, non-profiteering organization, and of course, the civil society. EBEN aspires to play a significant role by providing support to academia, to organization, EU, etc., as I explained before. Our mission is to promote ethics and excellence in business, to increase awareness about ethical challenges in the global marketplace, and to enable dialogue on the role of business ethics in the society. We need to go beyond conventional wisdom. We have to start thinking out of the box. We have to move beyond the codification of the existing tools, bringing together Europeans, enhancing the growth of cultural ties between the countries, and try to share best practices in doing business in today's globalizing environmental is prerequisite. So Europe, I hope, is slowly coming out of this crisis stronger, and I believe wiser. No other continent is the birthplace of modern civilization, the mother of all sciences, the birthplace of democracy, and the ideal place and climate to live and prosper. The coming decade will be complex, volatile, and uncertain, but it will also provide many new opportunities for small business and their customers in the total marketplace. So, from the democratic point of view, age, culture, and gender will blur the lines of influence over the next decade, changing the face of a small business and consumers across global markets. Baby boomers will dominate the graying population of the industrialized world. It's a C economy. According to analytics by Booz Allen, a company which is very known in the United States, 870 million global women who have not previously participated in the mainstream economy will gain an employment or start their own business. And something which probably you don't know, probably you heard, when we had the crisis in 2009, there was a study in France about the exchange, the stock exchange, and they found that companies who managed by women, they had better results than men. This is, bear in mind, Mr. Gentlemen, friends. So, economic opportunities. Driven by economic opportunity, the shift from rural to urban will continue with about, as we saw, 60% of the global population. Now, what does the future hold? What will be the world and the economy look like in decades to come? What will life for our children and their children? These are perhaps some of the biggest questions that confront humanity. But Europe is by definition a very strong brand name, at least as a marketeer, I can say easily. We absolutely have to make the most out of it. Thus, manufacturing production must indeed be placed at the center stage of Europe's economic recovery. We do believe to ourselves, we do believe to our potential, we can exceed our expectations. We have the tools, ladies and gentlemen. We have the structure. We cannot afford to fail. So thank you at the moment, and we are going to move to the next subject, which is my country, Greece. Okay? Now, we are passing in a difficult issue. It's difficult. So, friends from abroad often ask me to opine on the Greek debt crisis. They are looking, of course, for some insight into what is going on and why the country is at the brink of bankruptcy. I suppose they think that my heritage makes me more qualified to offer such insight. The Greek crisis, in many ways, is a simple story. The predictable outcome of policies and cultural idiosyncrasies. So here is an attempt to tell the story with a few charts. Number one, Greece joined the Eurozone without being adequately prepared. For example, its public debt was in the range of 100% of GDP, much higher than the limit of 60% of GDP, which is set up by ME. So you don't want to know that now we are approaching the 200s. Okay? Moreover, successive political parties did nothing to cover the competitiveness gap that separated Greece from other Eurozones. Trade unions and left-wing parties advocated an even more lax policy, claiming that participation in the Eurozone gave Greece the means to attain governance in incomes and pensions, irrespective of an international competitive and economic and fiscal fundamentals. So, did Greece get in troubles because Greeks don't work hard? You know, with these long siestas. But I see yesterday that you have also here in Holland siestas, so... Okay, but let's see this. We are the highest working population, probably not in Europe, but probably one of in the world. So, let's continue. So, if the Greeks work so hard, then how come they don't produce enough to cover the obligations? First of all, we are not an industrialized country, full stop. And what we are, we are a country with a lot of public sector. You will see in a couple of minutes, but in the meantime, this is the GDP per hour work in US dollars, current prices, and you can find somewhere, I think Luxembourg is very high there. Mexico, United Kingdom, somewhere here. Germany here, okay? So, why is productive so low? Over the years, politicians have grown the size of government. They also love to regulate. We hear just in the previous speech. Over the last 30 years, they have passed 4,000 new laws and issued about 110,000 ministerial directives. My God. I have studied also law. Thanks God that I haven't followed. You need a lot of people to enforce these laws. Public servants in Greece get lifetime tenure. Politicians loved growing the government to carry favor with voters. You understand why? Look what happened to the public sector. Just in the period of crisis. For God's sake. Because they asked them, if you vote me, I will find you a job in the public for your whole life. For you and for your wife, for your children, for your grandchildren, for everybody. So just to give an example, we are just 4.5 million people working. About 1 million, it's public. 27%, it's unemployment. It's unemployed. So we are just a bunch of 2 million people who are working in the private sector, which is going down, of course, with all these taxes that we pay every day. So, at the same time, Greeks love to strike, to fight for more benefits. Politicians were happy to offer more. See what happened there. I laugh because I cannot cry. Listen, 38. Look what happened to the other countries. And don't say that 38, they are not real strikes. Just they say today, let's do a strike. But it's a nice weather. Few of you can go to swim. I'm going there. Let's strike. Let's close the center of Athens for 2-3 hours. That means a mess for the total day. And that's it. So nothing very important strikes. Okay? Speaking of state of favoritism, how about corruption in general? Why? The system until now of checking who is paying taxes and who not, it was very weak. Extremely weak. Normally, the people that pay are the employees, which is very easy to check what money you give and what money you take back, how much you put in. All the rest, it was a little bit in a cloud. On top of that, an average Greeks retire earlier. So you see, the Greek was about 60, 61. The women much less, of course, because there is a law which says that if you have children under the age of 18, you can leave at 52 or 53, etc., etc. So at the same time, the government is not bringing enough it's not bringing enough revenues. How do we know this? Greece has the largest, as a percentage of economy, shadow. So we are, I think, the highest, about 22%. Black economy, as we say. Sometimes, and I have a lot of professors here from the economics, sometimes, but not there, somewhere here, black economy is not bad, but not 22%. Not 20%, not 12%. Okay, when we're speaking about 4, 5, it's not too bad. Okay, but 20? Of course, if you don't pay, you have black economy. And that's why we're still in real life at the moment, because there is a black economy from the past. So how can they escape taxes? most of the people work for the teeny business. So the business in Greece, they are very tiny, just a second, business. So we are speaking about 653,000 small business. So the employee is about 1,700,000 from these 2 million that I explained before. They have a backyard operation, very small business. And by the way, the number of those businesses is going down. Look what happened the last couple of years, suddenly. Compared with the European, which is the red one. So they go down. So they decide to elect a radical left. So you know, I don't want to make any political issue here. And they have promised that they will solve the problem. I leave the story here as far as this is concerned. But from the other side, running out of money. Oh my God. In this era of uncertainty, business and investors have postponed investments, which is terrible bad. And you will see why. I'm going direct here. Simply, what we have to do to help Greece to go better. First of all, it's simply modernize the tax system. This is number one. If you have a modernized tax, nobody can escape. They have started now to use credit cards, for example, for everything. Like in Sweden, for example. If you go in Sweden, 95% of what you just in the bus, you go with your credit card, which is something which is very good. Improve the process of budget preparation. Tighten control over the public spending. Where is this money? Why to spend this money as a public? This is my money. Why you decide to do that? Reform urgently the pension system to ensure long-term financial viability. Not taking pension in the age of 52. That's silly. Raise labor market flexibility and tackle poverty. Enhance the effectiveness of competition policy. Strengthen efficiency of the education system. Again, education is number one. Foster innovation and knowledge-based activities and promote the green fiscal reform. Reform confidence in the management and impartiality of the state. Long life tax scheme. This is very important for somebody who wants to spend and invest money. Not every year a new system. More money to develop an education and more business and political ethics. So I will try to close because I don't have more than 4 minutes. At this point, the future is neither uncertain. Will the new government agree in the IMF stories and in the EU? I don't know. I think we go this direction, and I hope, cross the fingers. Problems are huge, and the Greek people will pay one way or the other the price for mistakes made during 1998 and 2010. We saw in the tables. The Greek crisis will continue for at least 8 to 10, I believe 20, but it doesn't matter. Greece's problem affect the functioning of the Eurozone. The leaders of 18 Eurozone governments invest a lot of time and effort in order to manage the ongoing crisis. I believe in people much more than political parties. I don't believe in political parties in any part of the world. I'm sorry about that. And governments that act accordingly to preconceived ideas and try to take advantage of the Greek crisis in order to promote their political strategy and gain the political advantage. No matter what transpires, Greece will have to rebuild. 15, 20 years. But the country has the resources to do the job. As Aristotle used to say and believes, ethos, logic, and pathos. And something else we used to say 2,400 years back. When you have a new government, you have to put the best people in the top job. Otherwise, you are going to fail. The same happened with Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great used to have the best people from Macedonia when he visits different countries. The best people, not because it's a political friend as a head of the okay? So it's about the EU acting together. I believe that. We saw the bees, using tools in a carefully calibrated way. And as Plato used to say, in the dictatorship of moderate minds, we oppose the domination of few but excellent. It's also important to realize that living in a network economy and continuously facing new challenges, leaders have to adopt an international outlook and perspective along with a code of ethics and social responsibility that will govern the daily decision. It has been widely discussed that the financial crisis that we experience these days would have been much less serious if this code of ethics and self-regulatory behavior was practiced. So, ladies and gentlemen, united we stand, divided we fall. That was Aesopus. I wish you all the best for the fruitful gathering these 2 days. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anthony Gortzis. That was very interesting and informative, and I'm sure there are comments or questions. First one over there.
Mr. Gortzis, I'd like to thank you for your first lecture.
Yes.
You showed some very impressive statistics on population, Europe, Africa, for instance. But looking at the actual waves of migration, refugees, don't we have to rewrite some of these statistics concerning the growth of population and the distribution? And I see a lot of attractiveness of Europe at the moment, at the actual moment. And if you look at these numbers, we have to rewrite really the statistics.
Yes, thank you. Before I present, because in the first place I had more lengthy presentation, what I found is that the figures that I'm going to tell you, it's not something which is very far away. That was in 2010-11. They predict that Europe is going to be in the 2035-50, 43% immigrants. The rest are going to be Europeans, in brackets, the word, but 43% is going to be immigrants. Now, perhaps it's going to be 43, I don't know, probably 50 after what happened the last couple of weeks and months. But definitely, somebody has to see very carefully these figures. Now, of course, the good part of the immigrants probably is they are going to help a lot the local economies. Definitely, because there are people who are they are educated, they know how to work, and I remind you, I was there as a director of Unilever in Germany. I remember when we had the East people from East Germany to West Germany. In the first place, it was chaos. The people that couldn't work after 1 o'clock were very tired because they have another system before in the East. But suddenly, slowly and slowly, because they had the capacity, they had the mind, they worked properly, and they put together the industry. So yes, probably they have to rewrite. I agree with you. They have to think very carefully. Yeah. I've seen a lot of hands.
Yes, thank you very much. I mean, you mentioned regarding Greece that you need pension reforms, that you need more flexible labor markets, etc. All this is more or less known, so the question for me is, why don't Greek politicians do it, and what institutional reforms or policy reforms do you have to give incentives to politicians that they really do these reforms? Then you quickly said, oh, we need the best politicians in the job that we can get. Is it really this that we need? Most politicians also in successful countries, say Switzerland, they do not tend to be the most intelligent people, most likely. So it's rather, according to my impression, to get the incentives right.
Let me tell you what happened. I run a company. I have my own company. And whenever I have to take somebody in a job, I try to find the best, because then I have easy way to reach my targets, and also not to have somebody who is going to give a trouble inside the company. So I think the same happened also to the government. So you cannot have, for example, Ministry of Education who has not finished any university. Not because that, but I mean, as a goodwill, the Minister of Education has to be somebody from university. Probably it's more stupid than the other, but doesn't matter. I mean, the point is that you cannot have... Who, me? I think it's the minister, it's the Prime Minister. It's the Prime Minister. Oh my God. So, Prime Minister, I will call you later. Yeah, sorry.
So I would follow up on this,
Yes.
on this interjection. Now, you also said that you trusted citizens more than governments and companies, I believe. And with respect to the Greek situation now, but it is also the citizens who drive the shadow economy. And it will probably increase even more now that the income taxes and value-added taxes are increasing even more. And so what incentives can you give the citizens to change the country's economy?
Yeah, okay, I agree, but who decide about that? The government, the states. The government is the father and the mother. They have to give the right responsibility, I mean, to give that it's responsible. Otherwise, how Mr. X and Mr. Maria decide to pay their taxes? Either the system exists, and I can check you anytime how much money you want, and I take the taxes, or I know that the governments, the state, are honest, so I have to do the same thing. But listen, they change every week, they change the way they tax the people, the level of taxes, the way how to pay the taxes. So it's impossible to follow. It's a mixture. It's a mixture of thousands. That's why you saw 110,000 laws. It's impossible. The specialist people who are lawyers, they get mad. They cannot follow. I mean, it's impossible. It's impossible. And the point is that we, I mean, myself, as a manager, I go there and say, listen, I don't want money, but I can help you. I don't want to put here minister or general secretary, but I can help you. No, they don't want this kind of help. They want you because you believe in the same parties, and you are friends. So this is the difficult thing. Probably you cannot, some of the Europeans, they cannot understand, I don't know, probably it's the climate. Probably it's the climate, I don't know. You go out, I left with 25 degrees, I was swimming a day before, and I came to snow. I don't know, psychologically, how these people, they think. Probably say, oh, it's a nice weather, let's go to swim, and who cares about that? I don't know, to be honest.
Anthony, I'd like to make a connection between your two talks, actually.
Yes.
And I have the feeling we need to reinvent our economy and our
100%.
society. And I agree with you that an ethical framework and values are important. So given that we are now faced with this digital revolution, couldn't we use this new technology and do value-sensitive design and basically create participatory platforms and basically invent the democracy 2.0. You know, Greece was basically the mother of democracy. You know, wouldn't Greece be just predestined to do this? You have so many people who are looking for jobs, and actually making a difference in a digital world is not so difficult. You don't need expensive factories. You need tools that everyone is actually using today. You need some education, of course, but that can be provided with MOOCs, with massive open online courses. So I think there are entirely new means to do innovation and to create platforms that allow many more people to contribute to value creation, to co-creation, and so on. So wouldn't that be a way out of the crisis?
Let me go quickly because we have to finish. I have talked with my team, which actually are professors from different universities in Europe. I'm speaking about the business ethic. The board is professors. And we say that we have to approach the political the governments. We have to help the governments to understand a couple of things who are basics. Okay, we approach and we have a lot of things and we are doing quite a lot of things to the industry, despite the problems that Volkswagen, for example, but it doesn't matter now. We have to be very near to the governments to understand what does ethics mean and how become better. It's pity that I don't have time, but I have a model prepared about 8 years how a company or an organization can become more ethical, which is easy and digestible for any organization. To become more ethical, not ethical, only the God, but more ethical, which is, if everybody can make one step in front, it's going to be a completely different world.
I mean, it's important, I think, also to realize that this is not reducing your possibilities to make money. It's really elevating the entire economy to a new level, right? And it's creating a more sustainable economy. This is what it is all about. So I think we should thank Anthony for this interesting presentation and discussion. And we have now a coffee break until 15:55. Very easy to remember. Please be back at 15:55 and give a hand to Anthony.
Okay, thank you.